Hey y'all, welcome to the Jacob Wayne Show Halloween Spooktacular. You know how you know it's spooky? Red lighting. That's all I have planned. I am very tired. I went to a party on Friday night and partied like it was 1999, and it's not. It's 2022 and I am 36. And I feel it. I have been sleeping like a baby all weekend, which is in short fits and waking up crying. Luckily, no shitting myself, though. I just really feel it these days. So this will be a nice little quickie. We'll get into some music news and some TV stuff, and then probably just call it good. Let's see here. Music. What new music stuff came out? There was the new Dead Cross album, Dead Cross 2. I'm still digesting it. I so far don't like it as much as the first one. It's just a little rough around the edges, and I know that's kind of what they're going for. So that's why I'm saying I gotta sort of process it a little bit more. But that being said, yeah, it's just they have the guitar player, I think, singing on it a lot more, rather than just having Mike Patton carry the main load of it. And he still carries the main load, but yeah, I don't know. I'm taking a look at the track listing now. They did comment how a lot of them were all going through some pretty intense stuff. I believe it was the guitar player that had cancer during the making of this record. Mike Patton had his diagnosis of like agoraphobia. Not aggro. I think that's like a fear of being around people. But my bad if I'm getting it wrong. But pandemic. Yeah, a lot of shit was going on. So you could probably feel that happening in the record. It does have a very ominous and creepy sound to it. I mean, the opening, Love Without Love, it's pretty solid. I don't know. It felt like a pretty quick record too. Like it kind of just comes and goes. It's at 32 minutes and 11 seconds, so that makes sense. Yeah. That being said, usually some of the records I love the most, I'm not crazy about on an initial listen. And bands that put something out that I love immediately, sometimes that record goes almost completely to the wayside and I forget about it. It's the more challenging records that keep me coming back, trying to kind of figure them out. But that being said, it's not like this is prog rock here. They're doing hardcore, punky, kind of screaming, yelling stuff. I don't know how much deeper you can really get with the material. Other than to just like let it course through you and feel it. So, as of right now, I'm gonna give it 3 stars out of 5. Maybe that'll change over time. I'll let you know if it does, if I remember to bring it back up. Which is a shame, because I'm a giant Dave Lombardo fan, Mike Patton fan. I loved the first Dead Cross record, but just kind of felt a little underwhelmed by this one. Let's see here. There was also a new track from Crosses, which I was very happy about. It's called Vivian, and I'm kind of getting a little impatient. I want them to put out another full album. It's nice to get these new tracks like just randomly, but yeah, I don't know. It always like keeps me from getting too hyped or too into it because I'll wear the song out by playing it over and over again, and then it's like, well, all right, cool. I gotta wait for more because I don't want to get sick of this. And at least there's been enough new releases from them now that I'm looking at it where you could pretty much just put the whole discography so far on play, and it's just kind of like almost like a second record by now. But good stuff, really moody. With all the stuff going on with Deftones, where their bassist left and there was a little bit of drama there. Um, their guitar player ended up being some kooky flat earther, probably anti-vax, all that other stupid conspiracy shit. Then, if they decide to call quits on Deftones, I would be okay with Chino in his later life moving into this project and really exploring it more. I've had enough Deftones. I will always take more Deftones. But yeah, I think there's been enough. If they decide they don't want to go forward at their current state. And that's a lot of speculation on my part. Maybe that basis leaving and COVID and all that stuff kind of was like a nice little break or big old wake up call. And yeah, let's see here. There was some new tracks from Devin Townsend. He has a new album coming out, I believe, next week. Lightworker. Um, I don't know. Kind of same old Devin Townsend to me, which is also really great stuff. Highly layered, highly skilled, lots of stuff going on. But at the same time, I don't know if I've heard anything from Devin Townsend in a while that's really gotten me excited. Um, I think still the last thing that I really loved from him was Casualties of Cool, and that was a collaboration with I want to get her name because I can never quite remember it. Uh, Che Amy Dorville. She's lovely and fantastic. She released a new single lately, maybe when I was taking a break from the show, called Falling Under. And so that is Che, C-H-E, Amy, A-I-M-E-E, Dorval, D-O-R-V-A-L. She's a wonderful singer-songwriter. Amazing voice. But the Lightworker stuff is good. It's positive. I like it. Once again, maybe it's a grower. Didn't immediately grab me. So with that, was there anything else new that I missed? Sometimes my Spotify is great about reminding me, and other times it's just not even on the same page. Killer Mike released another song. Haven't heard that yet. Wasn't impressed with Run featuring Young Thug. I prefer Killer Mike with Run the Jewels. Sorry to be so simple, but that is the way it is for me. Okay. Yeah, that looks kind of like about it for music, but I will give a shout out. One album I've been trying to digest a little bit, it's an old one, is from Harry Nilsson, 1971. Nilsson Schmilsson is the name of the album. And you would recognize the song Jump Into the Fire from where I came to know it and love it was from the movie Goodfellas. It's like, you can run into the fire, run about a square, oh. You know. But what I didn't realize is that perhaps a song that's even more popular is Gotta Get Up, Gotta Get On, Gotta Be Done Till the Morning Comes. That's reused a lot on the show Russian Doll, which I still need to finish. I keep slacking on it. Um, yeah, I didn't realize they were on the same album. This is another pretty short record. It's 35 minutes, 21 seconds, but there's another song called Without You that has 108 million plays, and I don't know it. So this is definitely something that is popular, that people are into, and I don't really know this guy. Don't know his music that well, so I'm excited to learn more about it. So that is Harry Nilsson, the album Nilsson Schmilsson. And with that, let's get into TV review real quick. Let's see here. I was hoping to be a little more articulate about all this today, but it is what it is, and I'm trying to be on time with opinions and feedback and reviews and things of that nature. What happened is I have finished watching seasons 1 of both House of the Dragon, and The Rings of Power. And I figured I'd sort of do a quick compare and contrast because that's definitely been part of the discussion online. They both came out at the same time, both very expensive shows. Fantasy adaptations, which at least traditionally have always been kind of risky. And let's see here. I don't know if I need any info up on the screen quite yet. I'll just speak my mind on it. But, so, did I like the shows? Yes. Did I like one more than the other? A little bit. I loved both shows for the most part. And if I have to, like, search internally, I think I was more riveted and engaged with House of the Dragon. That is because I am a pervert. I am a crabby old man who likes fucked up shit. And so, yeah, tongues getting cut out, family betrayal and murder, and weird shit like the one guy with the foot fetish thing. And, I wouldn't say I was into the family incestual stuff, but it's fascinating because that stuff did happen in human history. I was reading something interesting about, let's see if I can find that real quick. All the inbreeding in one German royal family led to a condition that you could even notice in the paintings of the royal family. It's the Habsburg jaw, which was likely the result of the royal family's inbreeding. And that's that really. I used to just think these were like shitty painters, maybe. But it turns out it's just. They're that really like squanched, like. They look like a crescent moon that's been left in the fridge for too long. And now it's like getting a little like old and soft to the touch because there's growth underneath. Like they just got these big chins and they kind of curve out like this, and then they're almost like their forehead comes out a little. Yeah, not a great look, but yeah, they just kept running that jaw right through the mixer, and yeah. Anyway, I'm sure that's not the only example of gross inbreeding and things of that nature. Now, that's what I've always liked about Game of Thrones, and I was wondering because the House of the Dragon is not as funny. There was like Tyrion Lannister and all that stuff in Game of Thrones, and this one is pretty dire and serious and family relations and all that. And but found myself getting really caught up in the drama of power plays going on within the family, and I get into learning about the different houses and looking at the map that some of this carries over to the Lord of the Rings universe as well. But yeah, just slightly more adult, more risk of characters dying. That you're like, holy shit, I didn't think they were gonna take them out. Things like that. But uh, I'll get back to the House of the Dragon in a moment. But with the Rings of Power, what I found to compare and contrast them is that the fantastical elements of the Rings of Power are beautiful. Like, and just I found myself delving into J.R.R. Tolkien's lore and just like really trying to wrap my head around that. Like, what are wizards exactly? What's a Balrog? Who is Morgoth totally? Who is Sauron? And I went down a rabbit hole pretty early on in the season, just like, all right, I knew this stuff at one point, sort of, and so I wanted to go read it all again. My one buddy DJ said you should read the Silmarillion, and I was like, I think I will one day, maybe, but I'll be honest, was never a big fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's books. I read the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy when I was incarcerated. Had nothing but time and energy to get into it. This is back when I was a troublemaking teenager. This is DT. And yeah, they had the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I was like, all right, perfect time to get into it. And yeah, just nothing. Didn't really do much for me. I was like, I'll stick with the movies. And yeah, so sorry to all you J.R.R. Tolkien readers. And to be honest with you, I have not read George R.R. Martin's stuff for Game of Thrones either. I kind of told myself that once he finishes up the whole Game of Thrones series that I'll maybe give it a go, but you know, with reading, I just oddly enough don't really get that into fantasy. I like to see it, have it presented to me in a more condensed fashion. But yeah, to get back on point, the Rings of Power, it did a lot of things that I was surprised it did in terms of more mature stuff. Like, I really didn't like the Hobbit trilogy. I thought that was like one big, unnecessary, elongated video game that I was watching, and it just, I don't know. I had liked the animated Hobbit film when I was young that I think they did in the 70s or 80s. And so I definitely had that in my head and ideas of what Smeagol was, and I didn't really actually remember Smeagol as much as I remembered Smaug. And yeah, I don't know. The Hobbit trilogy did not grab me. I thought it was corny and cheesy, and there's a whole love dynamic that I don't think is in the original Hobbit. So, bleh. So I was like, all right, going back to Middle Earth, and started the Rings of Power, and just those first episodes of Galadriel and man, trying to remember names here, like Elrond, young Isildur, like it sucked me in. And there are moments, like especially moments with the orcs, where it they kind of shot it like a horror movie. Like it was creepy, and it was easier to put myself in this world and imagine. Yeah, having a horde of orcs coming after you. It was. I think I felt that more in this show than I even really sort of felt it in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And they looked great. Like, I really can't knock either show. Like, both look fantastic. But I'll probably give the edge to the Lord of the Rings show. Just there was moments where I was like, wow, that is beautiful. That being said, the Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, all that. It's a little corny at times. And I've noticed that it's not necessarily all the different races and stuff. It's sometimes when you get in with like the dwarf stuff and the Harfoots or the Hobbits, it's just like, we're gonna sing a song about a potato, and you're like, oh god. Like, how long is this song gonna go on? And sometimes it works, sometimes it's effective, but I'm like, can we get back to the human stuff and orcs? And I've always thought elves were very snooty and obnoxious, but this is the most I've ever liked elves in any of this material, and that has a lot to do with Elrond and Galadriel. I get it. They kind of helped show like, no, we're these immortal beings that are essentially like angels and going to war against the devil. Like they would kind of be like that. And I just feel like they communicated those things better than Lord of the Rings ever did. Lord of the Rings, if I wanted to, I could have dove in and learned that and known it. And I think I even did at one point. But watching that trilogy, I'm like, oh god, Legolas and Elrond, but old crabby Elrond, and nah, but I like it. I'm nitpicking here. The Rings of Power. I feel this way about both shows. I hope they don't stick around for too long and overstay their welcome. I hope they're nice and tight, like maybe 4 or 5 seasons. Shit, if one of them even had the balls to 3 seasons, that's it. But it's going to be a tight, clean story, and then we're going to move to a different era or spot in the lore. Like, that's what excites me about Game of Thrones, is if they can do it right. All the time jumping bothered some people, but I kind of like it. If they can do House of the Dragon and just burn through it and give all these actors some great chances to tell the key stories, more or less sort of catch you up to the age of Game of Thrones, then you can just do another House Stark, or just hit a different timeline and really get to all the major events and interesting stuff that happens in that universe. And I guess to a degree, that is what the Rings of Power is it's covering a huge swath of time, but really focusing in on key moments. And I was thinking I wasn't going to be into that for Game of Thrones universe. I was like, man, like, why would I want to know all the early stuff? Like, I want to understand what the fuck the White Walker thing is. And yeah, we don't need to discuss the ending and how they handled all that, because I think I'm more forgiving of the last seasons than a lot of people, but I definitely was still disappointed with, like, that's it then, huh? Like, what the fuck? Like, so I don't know. Liked them both. I like them a lot. I was the most shocked that I got that into Game of Thrones again. I was thinking it was really going to take a while to win me over, but first 2 episodes or so, I was like, yeah, no, I like this fucked up little universe. There's just something about it. And Lord of the Rings, most excited I've been about it in a very long time. And a lot of that has to do with the tone, the drama, like, I feel like the show showed me how their universe functions better than any of the Peter Jackson's any of the Peter Jackson stuff. And just like the metaphor of just good versus evil is the Rings of Power. Game of Thrones is we're all shades of gray. And I liked the comparing and contrasting of that as I watched them both. And the Rings of Power, the scene where Galadriel's I forget the terms, but the king sends her back to Valor, I think. And she essentially, it's like, no, you're going back to like this pseudo heaven spot. Like, you've done enough. It's Middle Earth is on its own a little. And just turning away from that. It's essentially like turning away from the gates of heaven and diving into the darkness to defeat the darkness, because you don't feel like you've done everything you could to do that. Yeah, I found that very moving and poetic and metaphorical. And whereas, yeah, I think Game of Thrones is stark human reality of like, oh no, yeah, I know this is all supposed to mean that and feel good and ceremony, but people are fucked up and they'll do what they can to seize power. And take advantage. And there isn't a lot of good in that. And unfortunately, that seems a little bit more like our reality. So while we are in a world where we don't have to fear a Morgoth, at least I don't think so. I think most reasonable people would agree. We do have to face Trumps and Putins and Xi Jinpings and the weird maneuverings of political families and parties and all that. And, yeah. Anyway, I love both the shows. I was even going to maybe throw in another fantasy series, and it is fantasy, not sci-fi. I've been really loving Andor, but there's still a few episodes left of that, so I'll wait for my review of that show. But as I think I've mentioned, September was just an amazing month for fantasy. Like, I can't think of any other time in my life where this much shit like that I'm into is coming out, and it's just like, just gotta brace for it and enjoy it every Sunday. And man, just been the golden age of television, as some have said, and I agree. So with that, I think I've been doing a little better about staying up on the show and getting them out there for you. Hopefully I'm getting a little better at doing these on my own. It's not as conversational. It is me kind of yapping at you and trying to picture you right here, like right here, you know. Don't worry, I'm not that perverted. You don't got to take it too many different areas. Although feet picture. Nah, I'm kidding. Hopefully I have another episode out for you. Seems like recording on Sundays is working pretty well for me right now. None of you really write me back yet because my audience is kind of small, but you let me know if you want me to discuss politics in the upcoming midterms at all. I think if you have listened to my show at this point, you know where I stand on that stuff. I wish it was a little more nuanced between the parties, and I hope we can get back to that. But right now, the fucking Republican Party is a disaster. Any non-MAGA Republican that's there is not admitting it yet, or just not doing enough to stand out against it. And if they did, like Liz Cheney, she got trounced in the primary and she's gone for defying the will of the great douchefuck Trump. So right now it's just about voting against the douchefuck, and I wish it was more nuanced. And I talk to people sometimes who were like, no man, both sides just vote the same wing on the eagle that's sick or whatever, and that's just disingenuous bullshit, and I can't buy it, and I can't have that silly little debate. Just can't. So yeah, the Democratic Party has a lot of fucking work to do, and isn't exactly what I want out of any party I follow. But politics isn't perfect, and voting isn't perfect, and just because you vote for somebody, that doesn't mean they're going to do everything they said that they were going to try to do or be able to. And you're going to get maybe 15% of what you really wanted that they said that they were going to do 50 to 60% of. That's just reality. That is that human world I was talking about. We thankfully don't have glorious cult leaders like MAGA treats their guy. And you just kind of got to get what you can out of Biden, and then hopefully he's like, oh, fuck, I'm old. Maybe not run next time. And I'll say that. Ranked choice voting is a good thing because I think that helps prevent against that extreme of just like, fuck, it's like one or the other. It's like, no, I could vote Biden, then a whole score of libertarians. I might even vote for the libertarian and then do Biden, and just not even put Trump on my list. And if he was, he's like at the very fucking bottom. And We should move towards that. Obviously, campaign finance reform, fight the oligarchy of it all. But yeah, I wish the Democratic voting base would be a little more on the same page and be like, hey, let's just not have Biden run just because he was Obama's vice president and recognizable and we're scared. Can we just, like, get somebody new, some young blood in there? And, that I see what some of you might even be saying right there. It's like with the Hillary thing. It's like, yeah, she's highly unlikable. I really didn't like her. I didn't vote. I was living in Seattle at the time. So it was going to go to Hillary. But, yeah, I feel slightly guilty about it. Plenty of my friends that are liberally minded that are like, no, fuck, I fucking hate Hillary, and we'll have the big old debate about it. And it's just like, that is a thing about fucked up money grubbing dynasties of the past that it's like, hey, lesser of two evils. I do understand that frustration. So, yeah, it would be nice if we could get somebody a little younger that isn't in their 80s and trust that, like, I'm just throwing a name out there. I'm not even endorsing the guy, but it's like a Pete Buttigieg. He's maybe like milk toast enough for one half of the party and young enough and has enough progressive new ideas to appease some aspects of the more left party. And we could just be like, well, he's not my perfect ideal candidate, but it came down to him, and clearly I'm going to vote for him over Trump. It's like that simple, but apparently it's not that simple for people, which sucks. It could be if you actually did proper research and knew your history, but people ain't going to do that, and people that say that they do that, yeah, going on fucking weird ass fucking websites that are going to give your computer a virus isn't necessarily good research. But yeah, let's not talk about politics next week. Let's just let it happen. I dropped off my ballot today. Luckily, there wasn't any freedom fighters guarding the voting bin. We did have that last time we voted. Just some old fuck stand, because we go drop it off in front of the old folks' home where they got a voting ballot box right outside the front door of there. Everybody in there can vote real easy. And they do. And yeah, just this old fucking guy just be like, hey, I'm just keeping an eye on this ballot box, making sure, nobody's trying to cheat in this election. There's been groups going around, and we're like, oh yeah, I bet you're thrilled about who we're gonna be voting for. Anyway, makes me sick, makes me sad. Hopefully, if the House does flip and the Senate doesn't, or it's still kind of gridlocked or whatever, I mean, yeah, the hope would be that there's enough of like, oh, we didn't win really anything. Maybe it's time we actually like change our tune a little bit and not go for this fucking Trump bullshit. But anyway, hey, I think I went on a little bit longer than I expected to. So look at that. Once you get going, you can kind of keep going. Thank you for coming for this Hey, that was kind of Halloween vibes, getting all scary and depressed and yeah at the end. I even got all the red lights for all that creepy MAGA shit. Alright. I'll be in a better mood next time. I'm just tired from this party on Friday and a little bit emotionally volatile. I will say that. Anyway, I will talk to y'all next week. Ta-ta! Thank you for listening to The Jacob Wayne Show. If you would like to contact us, please write us at fakoshka@gmail.com. That is FAKOSHKA@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Simply search The Jacob Wayne Show and it should pop right up. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. Please write us. It helps add content to the show and makes the show even better for you, the listener. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome to the